Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter Burton Memorial Open 2024. My name is Jeff Foster. I am joined by Travis Loro. Travis Loro is the staffing manager for the Hunter Burton Memorial Open. So I know we're here, we're playing 13 rounds of Magic plus a top 8, some great prizes that we're giving out. But for the people that are watching who don't understand what the Hunter Burton Memorial Open is about, can you just walk me through the story of the Hunter Burton Memorial Open and what we're all here for?
Sure. So, about 10 or more years ago, Hunter Burton was a popular figure in the local community here, and he eventually lost his life to suicide. And so some friends got together. We had a charity tournament just to raise awareness. A big cash tournament was what Hunter would have wanted, so that's what they did. And since then, the tournament has become an annual fixture here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it's just grown so much over the past 10 years. And it's so much more than a tournament now. We do community outreach. There's a whole charity foundation as well. The tournament is still a highly visible event for us, but we do so much more now.
Yeah. I was kind of walking around the convention center here, and it does seem like there's a lot more than Magic going on. Obviously, there's other card games. You're holding a bunch of really large Lorcana tournaments and Flesh and Blood tournaments, but also one thing that I thought was really cool was there's like a whole side ballroom that's just dedicated to people hanging out and like playing just random board games. Like I saw a board game library. Like it feels like there's a whole convention atmosphere, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that sets us from other large Magic tournament or card game tournaments is this is really first and foremost about the cause and the community. Like we are trying to bring people together from all walks of life. There are a number of people where this is the only event they play all year. So we want to be inclusive and welcome everybody. And there's lots of different activities. Like last night we had our trade night. Like that's really kind of an old school community event, right? Like, come bring your binder. I'll trade you, 2 Pidgeys for something.
Yeah, and I know on Friday there was like a whole cocktail dinner, and like I really just I like the atmosphere of this. I think if anyone in the area or even outside the area that wants to come and not just play in a large Magic tournament, but play in other tournaments and just come hang out for an entire weekend, I think this is like a great event. And next year, whenever this event happens to be, I think people should be on the lookout to come out here and hang out and support a good cause.
It's really hard to describe to people who haven't been here, because I wasn't here for the first few years, but it feels different. Like everybody is cooler. It's like hard to describe the vibe of the players. Is like, when I do other Magic tournaments and when I deliver a ruling, I tend to get maybe some pushback or some angry players. That just doesn't happen here. People are just here to have a good time in the spirit of the community and the cause. And I think that's really neat, and it's hard to kind of explain that. It feels different. The vibes are good.
I understand exactly what you're talking about. Having been a judge myself for a while, competitive events are great, but I really love the casual atmosphere. But there is a competitive event happening. I don't know if you know that.
I'm acutely aware.
And I don't think you're just here to talk about the event, but you're actually here to talk about our next feature match. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm told.
I think we should go ahead and get that match pulled up before. Oh, it's already on screen. Okay. Okay. So you seem to know these players pretty well, right?
Yeah, Julian John especially. He's been a regular on the tournament scene for a long time. Made a name for himself on the SCG circuit, but he is somewhat local to us. So here he's played many years at the Hunter Memorial Open.
Cool. And on the left, it looks like we have Matthew Colburner, who is playing Domain Rhinos. So we have a couple of decks that want to be putting this ley line onto the battlefield, and both players have a ley line of the Guild Pact on the battlefield.
Yeah. You'd love to see it. Pre-game actions for both players. Perfect mana both sides.
Yeah, everybody's starting with 6 cards in hand. However, it's a lot better when you can tap your Arid Mesa to cast a Leyline Binding. Basically, you just have access to Path to Exile the entire game.
Yeah.
But Julian follows it up tapping his 2 fetch lands for a pair of Wild Macottles. How long has it been since you've seen a Wild Macottle on the battlefield?
It is helpful when all of your lands are mountains, forests, and plains. Macottle being a 3/3 at all times does help, and he fits right into the style of the Zoo deck where you're just trying to cast as many 1-drops as possible. Ragavan, Wild Macottle, Stubborn Denial, Leyline Binding. gets to hang out in the one drop club with everybody else.
Yeah, I do remember, way back in the day in modern well, not modern because it was banned, in extended, getting a 3/3 while in the coddle the hard way. Julian not even going down to 18 to crack fetch lands to get 3/3 Nakados. What a world we live in.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like Matthew has a full grip. Really only casts this Leyline binding. Let's see.
Well, we do also have Crash of Rhinos, or Crashing Footfalls on suspend there for Cold.
Yeah, those aren't the Rhinos I'm concerned about. The Rhinos I'm concerned about are the one that I'm going to assume is 25 to 30 cards deep in his library.
Assuming he's constructed his deck appropriately, yes.
Okay, so for those unfamiliar with Modern and the landscape of Modern, can you walk us through the obscure card Crashing Footfalls?
Sure. So the Rhinos archetype is kind of defined by playing these cascade spells, formerly Violent Outbursts, but now Shardless Agent, sometimes Ardent Plea now. And the cascade mechanic, you go through your deck until you hit a card that costs less mana than the spell you just cast. And then you construct a deck in such a way that it is only Crashing Footfalls, which makes 2 4/4 tokens, in this case represented by Brock's Rhydon, I believe that is.
Is Rhydon a Rhino?
Yeah, in this case, in this context, he is. I think Rhydon was the first Pokemon, if I remember correctly.
I think it was Rhyhorn.
Rhyhorn, okay.
I think it was Rhyhorn. But Rhydon, not the Rhino Pokemon.
No.
Anyway, getting back to this board state, getting 10 power on the board when facing down these wild Nakados. Matthew looks at your 3/3s and raises you a pair of 4/4s using only one card.
Right. So in the context of this matchup, Julian is definitely the aggressor. He's trying to get in damage and disrupt the Rhinos because his creatures just line up poorly against 4/4s. He has 3/3 Nakados. He has 2/1 Ragavans, just completely outmatched by the Rhinos. So he's hoping to make some good headway before the Rhinos appear. It doesn't look like he's quite gotten there, and these Rhinos might stabilize. If Julian John is the beatdown, the fact that Coldburner is attacking suggests that he feels pretty comfortable in his position.
Yep, and there we go. We've got the Leyline binding after cracking a couple fetches for some snow lands. What are the odds of a double block? He's putting them together. You think we're going to see some double blocks?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
There's just too many ways that can go poorly for you.
Oh yeah, with this much open mana. Another way it could go poorly is not even caring about a removal spell, just putting 10 more power on the board.
Yep.
But yeah, seeing Julian crack those fetch lands pre-combat when the fetch lands already generate every color of mana. Do you think he's got something going on here? You think he's just trying to thin his deck to find answers? What do you think's going on?
I haven't taken a close look at the deck list. I suspect it's just deck thing because he can already cast all the spells and he has all his types unlocked for Leyline Binding and the Wild Nakados.
Yeah, to me, I think it's a good question because going down to 12, paying 2 life simply to get a couple of lands out of your deck, when you're facing down what you thought was 6 power, is now much higher. But I'm not sure how much paying that 1 life is worth it in the long run.
Right, we'll see if it makes a difference in the combat math. He might just, he may have found himself in the spot where he needs to draw something, and he felt like paying the 2 life was worth it.
If you're looking at only having 1 draw step left, maximizing your chances is a lot better.
Looks like now Scion of Draco on both sides, so the creatures have a pile of keyword abilities.
Do you think Julian is worried about combat math at this point? Do you think either player is worried about combat math? Obviously, Julian is worried about it, but do you think any of them are going to be doing combat math for the rest of the game?
I think Julian is in that he's going to have to block this attack every turn until he feels like he's stabilized. But as for Coldburner, he's got enough creatures in play that are larger that he can just attack every turn, I think.
Yeah, having all of your creatures have trample, definitely. Trample is a form of evasion. and that these creatures are no longer being blocked unless the life total is unless blocking makes my life total 1.
Yeah. Well, this is going to make combat so much worse for Julian. We have Viseju on the ley line there is going to remove some of the abilities granted by Sign of Draco.
Yeah, I really like that. We're trying to Julian is trying to put this game back on an even playing field for whatever his version of an even playing field looks like at this point. Oh, he just scoops him up. Yeah, I mean, when you're facing down that much power
with lifelink.
Right, with lifelink, it's I guess there really isn't much you can do at that point when you're facing down that much with lifelink as the zoo deck. Like you're not, even though your opponent you may be able to deal with their creatures, now you have to deal with their life total, and when their life total is roughly 40, I don't think you're going to be able to put through that damage.
And in a matchup like this one, where both players are playing Leyline of the Guild Pack and Sign of Draco, kind of the splinter twin of the deck right now,
right.
When one player has it and the other doesn't, it tends to snowball pretty quickly.
It is kind of it's not the splinter twin we wanted, but it is the splinter twin we deserved.
Now, do kids today know what I mean by splinter twin? Is that still like? I don't think we've been able to play that card for a decade.
So I don't really talk about Twitter that much, but from what I've seen on Twitter, everyone knows what Splinter Twin is, and they really, really have an opinion about whether or not it should be.
It's that cube card, right?
Yes, it's a cube card. And look at this. Pre-game actions again. 2 Leyline of the Guild Pack. Both of these players know exactly what they want to be doing, and both of them are getting half of it.
Yeah, and once again, we see Julian John fetching, does not want to draw Savai Triome at any point during this game.
I can't imagine a world in which you would want to draw a come into play tapped land when all of your lands tap for any mana you want.
Especially in the sideboard games, there are more ways to remove Leyline of the Guild Pack, so you might actually need to use your lands for specific colors, so getting a Triome out of the way early in case you don't always have access to that Leyline can be helpful.
Yeah, and let's see what we've got from Matthew Colburner's side of the board.
So there it is again.
I'm sure that the people watching at home can hear us, but they can also hear the players. I don't know if you heard it, but Matthew said Dragon Mirror as he casts the Scion. I do like how even though both these players have very different plan A's, their plan B is what we're watching right now.
I really like this attack from Julian John, by the way, because he's offering the trade the Silent Dracos at half that Splinter Twin we were talking about.
Right.
So he's either representing a second Scion,
yep,
or he's willing to offer the trade just get the other Scion off the table. But either way, Colburner has to respect it, and he doesn't block because if he makes the trade and then Julian just drops another one, that's horrible. But this could be Julian just being, Julian knows that as well. He might just be getting cheeky, getting that 4 damage in.
Right, and I mean, looking at this in the world of combat math, which I am not very well versed in, we just call this free damage. You attack for 4, you look at your opponent, you're like, I know you're not blocking. You need this way more than I do. Yeah. I'm gonna get in my 4. Let's see. Oh, it looks like Matthew's showing that I think the Scion might be his plan A this game. If he's attacking with it, then he is not worried about what Julian could be presenting, not worried about a block from Julian. Julian's already kind of said, look, I want to get in with damage with this 4 damage. So Matthew's like, okay, I'll race you. We've got lifelink.
And Julian doing essentially nothing on turn 3 might be showing some weakness that Colbert has picked up on. He might be saying, I see you doing nothing. I'm going to get in there.
Yeah, and looking at Matthew's sideboard, there's 3 Teferi Time Raveler, 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Force of Vigor, 2 Endurance, 2 Force of Negation, a Damping Matrix, and a Viseju. So I think Teferi has the potential to be good in this matchup. I see things in the sideboard that can be good in the matchup, but might not actually be doing what he wants to be doing. Like I don't think you want to be living in a world where you're bringing in Force of Vigor against the Zoo deck.
Well, so consider that the Zoo deck is playing Leyline of the Guild Pack, that's an enchantment. Yep. Leyline Binding, another enchantment.
Yep.
Sign of Draco's an artifact. We do have plenty of important targets that you can hit with that disenchant effect. You see, we've already seen wear and tear at Julian John. He's bringing in his disenchants for a deck playing a lot of the same cards.
Right. And it's one of those things that like the card matches up very well against a specific version of the game plan, but you can kind of be caught with your pants down having the a question, an answer to a question your opponent didn't ask.
Right.
And Julian's showing that he is not afraid to turn this guy sideways if he has to too. It may not have vigilance, but we're still going to get in for 4.
Yeah, well, notably both players have lost their Leyline of the Guild Pact there. So this might be a lower power game than we had last time.
I'm kind of here for it. Julian's playing the Zoo deck, so he is already fine having a 4/4. We saw last game he was fine having a couple of 3/3s. Mm-hmm. Like this is just what he wants to be doing. He wants to be casting big creature. Oh no, Matthew, not fine with 2 mana 4/4s, not fine with 1 mana 3/3s. He wants 10 power for 3 mana.
Well, let's see if he does in fact resolve this spell.
Julian does have some answers for that in his sideboard.
Rhinos. Yeah, 4 Rhinos. Good.
But we're just gonna get the 10 power. This one might be wrapped up. Looking at Julian's sideboard, there's Alpine Noon, 2 Pick Your Poison, 2 Flusterstorm. There's Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
2 Meddling Mage. Not instant speed, but will
Yeah, Meddling Mage a little slow to this one if it has been brought in.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got the 2 Wear Tear. We saw Lavinia, Azorius Renegade.
Another targeted card for
Meddling
Rhinos.
Mage.
Yeah.
And a Rest in Peace. So.
All right. So here is Leyline of the Guild Pact the hard way.
Oh, we paid 4 mana for it.
Yeah.
You love to see it. Ooh. Okay. I think we have found something bigger than a Rhino.
Yeah, and not only is it larger than Rhino, but remember that I think it's picked up some abilities from his friend there, the Scion of Draco.
Yeah. Let's see. The Scion of Draco will give Vigilance, Hexproof, Lifelink, First Strike, and Trample.
Yeah, so
that is a pile of abilities.
Right, and because of the Leyline, we're getting all 5 of those, and First Strike and Lifelink can really turn combat around completely.
Mm-hmm. Especially now when we don't have the Wild Makados, we have a 4/4 and a 5/5. We don't have to worry about double blocking with First Strike and getting destroyed by any sort of removal spell. Now Julian knows that combat is his.
Yeah.
If you're attacking me, I'm blocking. I'll get 1 for 1. That's fine.
And this is exactly what Julian John wants to see. A pass from Coldburner means that I don't have any way to deal with your Leyline attack, your Leyline of the Guild Pack. I have no good attacks.
And here is Gigantha.
Right. Go ahead.
We put Gigantha into our hand a couple turns ago, and now Julian's just looking, saying, "Look, I'm going to pay 5 mana for a 5/5 that has a laundry list of abilities. I just want you to deal with it."
Right. And again, he's got Vigilance, so there's really Vigilance and Flying, no cost of this attack. He's going to get some life points back for the lifelink, and assuming Coldburner doesn't draw anything good, still no good attacks on his side.
Yeah, and without the Leyline of the Guild Pact, combat is just a nightmare for Matthew. Like even if these creatures didn't have First Strike, they still have lifelink.
Yeah.
It's I don't really see a way, and judging by the look on Matthew's face, I don't know if he sees a way out of it for himself either.
Right, he's just going to try and set himself up for more turns, see more cards, see if we can get either your own Leyline of the Guild Pact or an answer for Julian's.
Yeah, at this point, if my opponent is looking me in the face, paying 5 mana and putting effectively a vanilla 5/5 on the battlefield, I'm either looking like I'm in the best position possible, or there's no way I'm winning this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like Matthew sees the writing on the wall, and we're going to a game 3.
Yes. So, like I said, the combat becomes very difficult for the player who doesn't have Scion and Leyline. So that's why we talked about this on one of the earlier turns. Potentially trading those Scions or offering that trade can be a very meaningful decision that happens very early in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to the sideboards, like we saw the wear and tear, but that's really only the only sideboard we saw, the only sideboard card we saw that entire game. And I'm honestly wondering, how do you feel about bringing in the Lavinia and the Meddling Mage from Julian's side?
So Lavinia is one of those cards that is in the sideboard probably for Rhinos.
Yeah.
Meddling Mage can definitely be used here. You just named Crashing Footfalls. So those cards could be in the deck right now.
Yeah, the two cards are effectively interchangeable. Meddling Mage, and we see the Meddling Mage in Julian's hand.
Oh, okay.
So Meddling Mage gives you a little bit of extra protection if you know there's a specific card that Matthew has that could be devastating. But it seems like the plan A for that in this matchup is for both of those to just be functional reprints of each other.
Right.
No ley lines this time, just a suspended Crashing Footfalls.
And
from
Lavinia does a
Burton.
little bit more than Meddling Mage because it does shut off the leyline binding as well.
Yeah, you do get a little bit out of it that you don't get from Lavinia. But if you're on Julian's side of the board, seeing no leyline when you don't have a leyline yourself, and seeing that Crashing Footfalls suspended on turn 1, it's a little, I think it's a little concerning. It's a problem that you're gonna have to deal with later, and I'm wondering if Julian is just okay with dealing with it later.
Yeah, you mentioned that Julian does have the Meddling Mage in hand. He can kind of deploy that at some point during the next 3 turns to shut off the suspended Crashing Footfalls. But no 1-drop means he's looking to play a slower game. If this Meddling Mage sticks around, though, it is going to be very good.
There is a second Crashing Footfalls, and it's often very nice. I guarantee we're going to see this Meddling Mage cast right now. But it is, it's nice to have the Meddling Mage on the board as sort of a thought seize for your opponent. Like, hey, I know you got some suspend spells, just don't cast them. But seeing those 2 suspended cards, having your Meddling Mage, instead of being a thought seize, be a counter spell twice. Yep, and there we go. I don't think we need to ask the production team what this card would be naming if it resolved. Or maybe when it resolves next turn. I'm pretty sure we know what it's going to name.
And to give you an idea of how good Meddling Mage is in this spot, it gets hit by the Subtlety from Coalburner and just immediately back on top. We'll try again next turn.
Yeah. Like, I don't think he could have put it back on top of his library faster. Like, and I didn't even think about the Subtlety because I was thinking maybe Julian would wait a turn or 2 to cast it, maybe play around like a leyline binding or something like that. And then just wait for like the last turn to be like, hey, gotcha, this is a counter spell. But playing around the Subtlety like this, I think, is really smart.
Right. It is tempting to try and dodge removal in that way, but most of the spells that would remove Meddling Mage are at instant speed. Mm-hmm. So I think Julian has correctly played around the Subtlety by just deploying at turn 2. That's the interaction that he's worried about.
Yeah, and even kind of playing around double Subtlety, because he still has 2 turns to resolve this Meddling Mage. Unfortunately, he's going to have to do it while facing 10 power of creatures. We had the 3rd Crashing Footfalls available to us.
We'll see if Julian can both deploy Meddling Mage and find an answer for these creatures on the board in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to look at Julian's hand and see. I like spoiling the surprise. I don't know if you do.
Oh, okay. Well, there it is.
I didn't see it. What was it?
Oh, it's on face down on the table now.
Oh, it's face down on the table?
He showed us for a moment, but I didn't see Meddling Mage, but I knew about that one.
Oh, I thought you said you saw an answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
So it looks like Tribal Flames,
It's-
Meddling Mage.
Wear tear. There are 2 Meddling Mages. Okay. That's a little unfortunate. I think we're gonna have to. Okay, we're gonna Tribal Flames because we still have a turn to deploy the Meddling
Right.
Mage.
We're going to focus on answering the board because 10 power will add up to 17 very quickly if you don't do anything.
Yep. And there is unfortunately a Leyline of the Guild Pact that was drawn in the first 3 turns of the game.
Well, that hardcast Leyline was the game winner. So
It was the game winner.
Don't count it out late.
I don't think it's going to affect the game quite as much this time, but I will say turns 1, 2, and 3, the worst time to draw a Leyline. You either want it on turn 0 or maybe you want it on turn like 5, 6, 7, something like that. But with the Ardent Plea being out on the battlefield, Now Matthew is able to do my favorite thing, which is attack for 5 with a Rhino.
Oh, get that Exalted trigger.
Yeah, we've got Exalted triggers. Exalted is back in Modern.
That that Rhino is an exalted member of our community at this point.
Yes, is definitely representing Bant. But it is on the topic of Ardent Play now that it is in Modern again, off the back of the demise of Violent Outburst and those cute little kitties on Violent Outburst.
Yeah, Ardent Plea is back. Not that it ever left.
Right. But yeah, what do you think about the banning of Violent Outburst, knowing that it would just be replaced by something else?
Well, so I mean, it seems to me, you know, in my unexpert opinion, that R&D is trying to target decks, bring their power level down a bit without just destroying them completely.
Right.
So the fact that Rhinos has stuck around speaks to that goal. You know, if that was in fact the goal, is that the deck is much more fair. It can't play at instant speed nearly as much, but it's still plenty powerful, as you can see here.
Mm-hmm. And we do see that Meddling Mage coming down, functioning as a counterspell for more Rhinos. But one thing that I did see called out with the banning of Violent Outburst is making sure that all Cascade spells are sorcery speed, because one of the problems that Violent Outburst had was that you could cast it on your opponent's end step when they couldn't Force of Negation, but you could Force of Negation their answer for it.
Right, that restriction on Force of Negation that's only free on your opponent's turn.
Yep.
Indicates it was meant to be used defensively, not to protect your own combo.
Yeah.
An instant speed combo like Violent Outburst into Crashing Footfalls kind of works against that ideal.
Yeah, it basically is a force for me and not for thee. But okay, I do appreciate that they wrote Crashing Footfalls on that piece of paper for us. We did not need it.
Yeah, you can see one of the Crashing Footfalls in exile already, and the other one will probably be joining it shortly.
Yeah, I have no reason to believe that this second one is going to resolve, considering Matthew did not have an answer for the Meddling Mage, either before the first one would have resolved or even at sorcery speed on his turn.
Although, you know, Julian John is getting pretty low at 7 life points. This one, again, beloved Exalted Rhinoceros might be enough.
Yeah, but it is a 2-turn clock. It doesn't look like he has an answer for. Okay. There is the Territorial Kavu, which I believe we have domain for. I see we have a Breeding Pool, a Sacred Foundry, and an Overgrown Tomb. That makes 5.
Actually, really impressed. You know, those are not the artworks I grew up with.
I was talking to Tannen in the first round today, and usually being on the back end of the camera means that I have to be looking at these cards constantly.
I pity you.
So while commentary itself may not be my strong suit, I can pick out an alternate art.
Okay, that'll be helpful, because Modern is just a kaleidoscope of artworks and treatments now.
I do like how you use the word kaleidoscope in the domain mirror. Very nice. But yeah, this Territorial Kavu is going to match up really well with that Rhino, and seeing that Matthew Colburner has already cast 1 Crashing Footfalls and attempted to cast 2 more, I think Julian has to be thinking that the way is almost clear. We've got one more potential set of Rhinos to worry about.
Right, and Colbert doesn't want to attack into the Kavu, and he knows Julian has been dashing that Ragavan every turn, so you know he sees more value in blocking potentially Meddling Mage or Ragavan. So Rhino staying home on defense.
It's never a good day when your Rhino is on defense. When you have your only creature on defense and a permanent on the battlefield with the word Exalted.
Yeah,
not really where you want to be. And I mean, both of these players are at 7 and 3, so this is it. This game right here is their tournament life.
Yeah, this definitely has top 8 implications. Mm-hmm. Going into the last round next round, or sorry, this is round 11. Yeah, next round. No, round 13.
We have 2 more rounds. We have
Thank
2 rounds
you.
after this. There you go.
It's been a long weekend.
It's okay. Math is hard.
Yeah.
13 minus 11 is indeed 2. You can ask Julian. Julian's been very good at combat math this game.
Oh yes. Although now that both players have decided to consider blocking, the math has gotten a little harder.
Julian is considering blocking, but is also dedicated to the attack. And he may be thinking that a second meddling mage on crashing footfalls may just be good enough. You can block. Yep, you can block the Rhino if you need to not die, and if he wants to name crashing footfalls a second time, it doesn't matter. You still got the crashing footfalls.
Yeah, I wonder if this is gonna be on Scion of Draco.
I mean, I know exactly what that says.
Yeah.
I was just waiting. There we go.
Oh,
It's
Solitude. Okay.
It's on Solitude. Okay, great. Thank you, Monarog, for this beautiful view. Orienting it in the correct way so I can read Solitude. But I do like naming Solitude. Solitude is probably one of the remaining answers Matthew has.
Yes, although in answer to one, it's probably the Kavu, because I don't know how many crashing footfalls he has remaining in his deck at this point, because we've gone through 3 of them already.
It is either 1 or 0.
Yes.
And Julian does not know that. I'm going to guess that it is 1. We could be just casting a Gray Ogre.
I think this cascade would probably proceed a little faster if there are no more crashing footballs in the deck.
Yeah, judging on how slowly we're going through this. Though I would love to see the slow, methodical, get to the last card and then just kind of put the deck in his face. Yeah. That is something I would personally.
Then go back and check the sideboard.
But yeah, we've got a Crashing Footfalls. No surprise to any of us. That card not being cast off of Suspend.
Yes.
Or off of Cascade. Matthew has a choice. Chooses not to.
Not a good spot to be in where you're actually just casting Shardless Agent, not planning to hit a spell with that Cascade trigger.
You know, if you had told me at the beginning of the day that I would be referencing Grey Ogre every round, I would have told you that you were correct. Yeah, but when we're casting just Grey Ogre from our hand, with additional mechanics behind it. You got to flip over all those cards, hand them all to your opponent. Hey, look at the cards.
Look at this.
Yeah, Matthew has got to see his tournament life fading, and you can kind of see it on his face.
Yeah, I mean, Shardless Agent does trade with Ragavan. Mm-hmm. Might be the best day of Shardless Agent's life that he got to do that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. It looks like we missed a combat. Oh, this is much worse for Matthew. Matthew being at 5 means that he's casting this because he's got to block trample.
Yeah, and 5's not a good place to be at against Zoo anyway, because that just means that Tribal Flames is potentially lethal at any point.
In my day, I have eaten a lot of Tribal Flames to the face. Yeah. Never feels good.
Well, here comes everybody.
Yeah, why not? You don't have to worry about a creature coming in flash, and there we go. We've got the handshake. So Julian moving up to 8 and 3. Unfortunately, yes. Matthew falling to 7 and 4. And you got to think. I mean, 7 and 3 doesn't feel super comfortable, but you can at least think that you have a good shot at top 8. Yeah. 7 and 4 is a little rough.
Yes, still eligible for prizing though.
Yeah. And it's I mean the winner gets 2,000. Even down in the top 16, do you know offhand the prizes for top 16?
I don't know the nominations. I do know that cash does go down the top 48. It's on the screen.
Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you, Honorog, for pulling up the prizes. Looks like 9th through 16 is $300, which is like a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah, and I do want to give credit to Julian John. That was well played. He was on the back foot when we had the first Crashing Footfalls cast. He did find his way to navigate through both 2 Rhino tokens and that threatening Ardent Plea enchantment.
Yeah. Like I said, Exalted is pretty relevant when you start with 20 life. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but 20 divided by 4 versus 20 divided by 5, that's a whole turn.
Yeah, and I would have answered. I knew that confidently until I messed up that math a moment ago when I couldn't add the 13. But I do agree with you on the math on that one.
Yeah, I am the combat math specialist in this booth today. So it looks like we have our backup match available. We have Logan Martin on Azorius Control and Chaz Alexander on Jund Creativity.
All right.
Mentioned in round 9. big fan of creativity decks. I love casting me a natural order, and Indomitable Creativity feels a lot like natural order.
So in your mind, what typically when we see the creativity decks, they're 4 or 5 colors. What sets apart the Jund creativity from its 4 or 5 color counterparts? What is it doing differently? What cards is it focusing on instead of those 5 colors?
That would have been a great question to ask me in 2 minutes when I have the deck list in front of me.
So typically Jund creativity plays more graveyard cards like persist. So,
Yeah,
creativity plays a lot of card selection. And part of that card selection is put these creatures in the graveyard with cards like Fable the Mirror Breaker. And so persist is kind of a natural fit for that strategy.
yeah. I mean, I also see Bitter Reunion, which is an upgrade essentially from the thrill of possibility type effects.
And another great way to get those creatures into the graveyard for your reanimate effects.
Exactly, and also like I said, you want to be playing these discard 1, draw 2 effects, but when it sticks around to be able to give that Archon of Cruelty haste. I don't know if you know this, but Archon of Cruelty is an enters the battlefield and attack trigger. Getting 2 of those triggers in 1 turn is devastating.
Yeah, and that was one of the recent upgrades to the creativity strategy because, putting big monsters in play and saying go is pretty good, but putting those big monsters in play and then attacking, even better.
Yeah. Telling your opponent, hey, I know you had creatures. No, you don't. I know you had cards in hand. No, you don't. I know you had a life total. We'll wait till next turn, but you won't for long.
Yeah, and that's especially relevant in this matchup with the Azorius control. Logan Martin is going to have sorcery speed answers to Archon Cruelty and think cards like Teferi Time Raveler or Supreme Verdict or even just the One Ring.
Yeah, and it looks like this is reprieve, not remand.
This is some folks call this the white remand. Some people call it the yellow remand. If you've seen that holiday booster treatments, it is very yellow in that one.
No, but reprieve is just an upgrade from remand because it doesn't counter the spell. It does not matter if the spell can't be countered. It's back in your hand.
Right.
Back you go. Moving on to Logan's turn. Can we get a look at Logan's hand real quick? I want to see what he's got going on here. Well, there is a Narset. Narset's a good start.
Yeah. Especially because the spell we did reprieve was the Bitter Reunion. That is a draw spell. Narset pretty good at shutting that off.
Yeah, not good at shutting off the discard part though. So we've got another reprieve. But I also saw Leyline Binding in there. So we do have some instant speed answers, even though they're not actually instants for these Archons.
And you see their Bitter Triumph putting Archon of Cruelty in the graveyard. Chaz preparing to reanimate it later.
Yeah, I mean, exactly like I was saying. You love to draw cards off of that, but really what you want to be doing is discarding.
Yeah. And, Logan made the heads-up play of leaving that Narset on 5 so it doesn't die to Lightning Bolt. But on the other hand, that just means that when your Narset did die, you actually didn't get a card out of it here.
Yeah, you paid 3 mana to just get Time Walked, which is pretty devastating.
Not on my list of favorite things to do in Magic.
Yeah, I mean, just like the last game, sometimes you present a question to your opponent and they have the answer. Sometimes you ask the question just a little differently and they had the answer for that one instead. Yeah. And here we go. Another way to loot. We have Fable the Mirror Breaker. Creates a creature for creativity. Creates a treasure for creativity if you're able to attack with the creature. Lets you discard 2 cards so you can reanimate an Archon of Cruelty, and then also lets you copy the Archon of Cruelty when it's on the battlefield. This card does everything that the Jund creativity wants.
And it does so much that Logan's having to think about how he feels about it. Going to cycle Hallowed Moonlight in response.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a cycle. He gets to draw a card, but also it prevents that token from entering the battlefield, which is pretty important. I'm sure Logan would prefer to do that on a Indomitable Creativity or something, but
I mean, if he's got the counter spells in hand, maybe he's not so worried about the big 4 mana, 5 mana sorcery plays from Chaz.
Yeah, and the Fable of the Mirror Breaker, not quite the spell you want to be giving yourself a reprieve from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're coming back to Logan's turn. I think I see. Okay, I thought I saw 3 cards, but it looks like there might be a little more. Okay. Oh, I think maybe we didn't draw the card for Hallowed Moonlight.
I'm not certain what's happened. Oh, he might be asking for Oracle text on the Hallowed Moonlight.
Okay, yeah. I did see Logan's deck is mostly Japanese. I think I saw a couple of Korean cards in there. So I think maybe I can't hear what they're saying, unfortunately. But Chaz may be either trying to figure out if he's drawn the card off of it, or trying to figure out exactly what Hallowed Moonlight stops. It's very easy for when your opponent casts it, just be like, oh, it stops the thing you're doing right now. But now we have to see if it stops other things.
Yeah. Well, you can see Hallowed Moonlight on the phone on your screen there. So that was in fact asking for Oracle text, just in case there's more copies of Hallowed Moonlight in Chaz's future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but now it looks like we're back to the action. We're gonna cast a Leyline Binding, get rid of the other half or 2/3 of that Fable of the Mirror Breaker. While he did have to cast 2 cards to deal with that Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you got 1 back on the Hallowed Moonlight, so It's a little bit of an even trade. And there is another one.
Yep, just a multi-format all-star Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Kind of has rocked every Pro Tour it's appeared in across multiple formats, and it's just it is a lot of cards.
I think I can't remember if it was on air, but we did have a discussion about Fable of the Mirror Breaker in round 9, winning every Pro Tour since it has been printed.
Yeah, I believe that is true, and it is it's going to continue winning as long as we're allowed to use it.
Yeah, and honestly, the card is very good. It does a lot of things very well, but that's where we're at in Modern. If we banned every card that did very well in Modern or did sort of unfair things, I think the format would just be standard.
Yeah, and Fable is just one of the more powerful things you can do in Modern right now. We've seen the Esper Goryo's deck this weekend. Some people have made it 4 colors just so they can include Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Right, and we had in Legacy we have a little bit of a saying: if you're paying 4 mana for something, it better win you the game. And we're very quickly approaching that in Modern. Not just the 3 mana Fable of the Mirror Breaker is being very powerful, but this 4 mana One Ring.
Yep,
better win Logan the game.
That is a 4 mana spell that is capable of winning the game.
Yeah. But I mean, looking at Chaz, yes, Logan will have protection. Protection doesn't mean you can't be attacked. So I'm expecting to see a couple treasures enter the battlefield.
Right.
And Chaz is also just going to have an embarrassment of riches between these 2 Fable of the Mirror Breakers that are taking up to 2 at the exact same time.
Yeah, so another Archon of Cruelty finds a way in the graveyard. It looks like a persistent hand, so that Archon might be joining the battle pretty soon.
Yeah, let me take a look at Archon. I believe it targets the opponent. So
yeah, so the ring is going to protect you from the trigger for 1 turn.
Yeah. Are we going to have these tokens enter the battlefield? Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, so he's going to wait a turn on it, get the full value out of that reanimation.
There are a lot of cards on the battlefield. I see a Tidebinder, a Solitude. I think that was a Lorien Revealed. Yeah, that is. We're cycling the Lorien Revealed. Since Logan does not have any lands, even among the 3 cards drawn in the last turn cycle, we're going to cycle the Lorien Revealed and basically do it for free since we didn't have that land anyway.
Right. Is unfortunate not to hit any lands on the One Ring, but we'll draw 3 next turn. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, like, do you really need the Lorien Revealed to draw you 3 cards when a One Ring is going to do it anyway?
Well, here's another Time Walk effect in a second copy of the One Ring. So another turn of protection, which means the Archon of Cruelty still can't target Logan.
Yep. And we get to reset the Burton counters on that One Ring.
You know, when I have the One Ring in play, I don't really feel the burden at most points. The One Ring famously not bad at all for the people who held it in the movies.
Yeah. You do turn invisible for a turn. They replicated that. But everything else, not so much. I do notice that whenever a player casts a One Ring, they do kind of feel the same greed for the One Ring, and that they want to find it again and again and again.
Yes.
But I mean, Chaz moves up to four treasures. Assuming that Logan does not have a counterspell, which, from Chaz's side, you would have to assume that. We know the truth, but Chaz can get all 4 Archon of Cruelties on the battlefield with a single Indomitable Creativity.
Well, keep in mind, a couple of them are in the graveyard.
We don't talk about that.
Okay. I don't know where the other 2 are.
I'm gonna assume that the other ones are still in Chaz's library.
Okay.
Could you imagine having to stare down 4 Archon of Cruelties at the same time?
Not for very long.
Yeah, it would not happen for very long. You're right.
But having drawn about 10 cards from these rings, I don't think Logan's going to have much trouble answering any attempt to put those Archons into play.
Yeah. I see another One Ring. That's the third. So we only got one more chance. But that is 3 turns in a row of protection.
And, not only is, Logan is protected, but he unfortunately is going to have to discard down to his 7 best cards.
Okay.
Tough spot to be in.
Yeah. Here comes the fun part. We had the same fun part with the Azorius control deck last time, and that you get to watch the cards your opponents discard, and then say, oh, okay, those were the bad ones.
Right. And we're just kind of evoking the solitude because I would discard it anyway.
Yeah, it looks like things are looking pretty good for Logan. I've been loving this match. I am excited for the inevitable game 3.
Right. Not to count Chaz out yet. Maybe Resolved Archon somehow survives the 7 cards in Logan's hands.
And additional cards from the One Ring that is on the battlefield. We're gonna veto this red and 6.
Yeah, and if your Chaz, this can't feel great that Logan is spending one of his premier counter spells on this Planeswalker that doesn't do a ton in this exact spot.
The actual best card that Logan could have against your deck is being spent on a 2-mana Planeswalker.
Right.
Not very exciting from Chaz's point of view. Oh, okay.
We have Veil of Summer out of the sideboard.
This is it. This could be the window.
Yeah. Could it turn a corner with this red and 6?
I'd love to see this from Chaz's perspective. I want to see what he's working with. Okay, so we do have the creativity. We've got another Veil of Summer for future turns.
Combat. Yep. More cards. Yep.
And really just against this barrage of One Rings, just using these goblins as kind of birds of paradise.
Yeah.
We're tapping them, we're generating mana. We'll use the mana later.
We're up to 5 treasure tokens here. Chaz is not short on mana on any of his turns here.
Yeah. We do not have to worry about any mana leaks from Logan's side of the board.
Billion cards in hand.
Are on melee and making their way to the Terran's board.
Although, I'd be curious what the deck count is for Logan here on his 3rd ring, drawing 3 more cards. Perhaps he has dug too greedily and too deep, as the dwarves in Moria did.
I mean, I will say that is one thing that I do enjoy about doing so many arena events. You can just hover over their deck and see exactly how many cards are in it. Right now we just kind of have to speculate, but I think we could potentially do some math here. Let's see, we've got 8 in the graveyard. Logan doing a great job of fanning out his 8 on the battlefield. Logan's doing a great job of fanning out the graveyard and the exile zone. I think I see 12, could be 13 a little off screen.
And about 12 or 13 in hand.
Plus the 13 cards in hand. I would be surprised if Logan had fewer than 20 cards left in his library. I think we're not worried about decking anymore. Logan is going to have to find a way to close out the game though, because he is down 1. If you look up kind of in the middle of the screen, right next to the verses, he's undefeated, but 2 of those are draws.
Yeah, that's the secret to never losing is just draw games.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is 2 draws as far as match points, basically 2 losses. 3 draws, also 2 losses. So he's got a draw to give.
Yeah. By the way, I love this. The Teferi, the Time Rattler, comes down, returns the One Ring to hands, and we might see that ring deployed again shortly.
Yeah, you know what is better than having access to casting the One Ring 4 time? 5, 6, 7. Just keep going. I believe that means Logan has cast a One Ring every turn since turn 6.
Why wouldn't you? It's just an amazing card.
I mean, if you got it, you gotta cast it, right?
Yeah.
50 minutes, you may begin.
I mean, the best thing that Logan can be doing against Chaz and almost any other deck, but specifically the one. Just want to listen to Chaz real quick.
Yeah, so Chaz is copying the Goblin Shamans on end step so that he can make even more treasures on his next attack.
But yeah, especially against the deck that casts Archon of Cruelty, the way that they win the game is by targeting you. Having protection, very, very important. Could you imagine how different this game would look if Archon of Cruelty said each opponent instead?
Right, and I mean, even then, it would have been answered immediately by a Solitude. I don't know if it would have been enough.
One wouldn't have been enough, but he has chances to put several on the battlefield.
Sure.
Eventually, one will get through. I mean, he's to the point right now that if you used subtlety to put the to tuck away the Archon of Cruelty, Chaz could just say, I'll draw it.
Well, Solitude would put it just into exile.
Oh, subtlety. I'm thinking of subtlety.
That's one of the ways this matchup can play out. Is there's usually 3-4 Archons versus 3-4 subtleties, and they kind of cancel each other out, assuming the Archons don't just kill you. It is possible for a control deck like Logan Martin's to run Chaz out of threats.
Yep. And Logan, I don't know if you heard Chaz telling Logan, you finally found a verdict. Logan casting this Ravnica remastered Supreme Verdict to get rid of the 2 tokens that Chaz has had on the battlefield for 5 turns.
Right.
And it's taken 0 damage from.
Yes. Logan has said 8 treasures. We should probably stop there. There's no way I could beat 10 treasures.
Yeah. As soon as we find that verdict, this is the first time that he has been able to cast a 4-mana spell that wasn't the One Ring. So if you're gonna cast a 4-mana spell, you might as well also have that one deal you no damage on your opponent's next turn.
Good.
Oh, fetch here from Chaz. Maybe we'll see a Dwarven Mine.
One dude.
Very astute observation. Did you pre-watch this?
No, I just.
You didn't? Okay.
It might be time. We might be getting a little creative with it here. Now that we're not protected from the One Ring for the first time in forever.
Skaz is saying, you know what? The coast isn't clear, but this is clear as it's gonna get.
Casting or pitching. Understood.
Oh, we're pitching for the Solitude.
Right. So this was on Logan's end step. Logan was gonna have to discard some cards anyway. So rather than discard these cards, let's just spend 2 cards to answer a 1/1 dwarf token.
Yeah, if you're gonna discard them anyway, you're using 0 cards to do it.
Yeah. And this is a map, Chaz is playing a deck, Jund Creativity, where the 1/1 dwarf token actually does command some respect.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
But
this power.
he has a large amount of treasures. I did notice him saying when he put the Dwarven Mine on the battlefield to Logan, "Oh, you're gonna let me have a target?" I think that may have been a little bit of a bluff. There are several targets on the battlefield. I think Chaz does have a potential route to victory, and that's with these 6 treasures now. Casting Archon. Yeah, I was thinking maybe using ultimate on the Renin 6,
Yeah.
giving his Indomitable Creativity's retrace and
Yeah.
just going for it every turn.
And don't forget here, Chaz showed us a second Veil of Summer, so that might get used here to kind of force through the Archon of Cruelty.
Yeah, and it looks like we're gonna have Tidebinder. Okay, we're gonna have Tidebinder turn this Archon of Cruelty into just a big vanilla creature. That says veto my veto.
Sad no.
I mean, this Archon of Cruelty is going to. Oh, there's another Archon of Cruelty coming up from this Persist now.
Right.
But
And this one will have abilities. It's not going to be a Colossal Dread mod like its friend there.
right, and Logan is going to have to get rid of this Tidebinder, which turns on the other Archon.
Yes, if it gets to attack one day.
Yep.
And you know, I at least made fun of this Ren 6, but I do think the ultimate is a path to victory here, especially because not only retrace on Indomitable Creativity, retrace on Lightning Bolt, retrace on Veil of Summer.
Yeah, that's you know, I didn't think about retrace on Lightning Bolt because retrace on Lightning Bolt just means that like Logan's at 8, like
Maybe 5 as of this upkeep.
yeah, like it is. It's going to these Lightning Bolts are going to add up.
Ren 6 on 6 loyalty also just represents 6 damage over 6 turns.
Yeah, Logan is kind of. I thought Chaz was out of this, but it looks like he has found a path to victory and is going to take it if he can. Logan's gonna bolt himself on his upkeep with this One Ring. So
Yeah. It's gonna be a 2 life facing 2 Archon of Cruelties, either which, if it gets to turn sideways, is lethal.
he has he was in this situation in round 9. He's got as I called it before, a mana crypt that always flips tails. In the form of the One Ring.
Yeah.
But it also is staring down 2 creatures that can deal lethal and a Renin 6 that can just ping ping.
Yeah.
And it's done. So Logan is again in a situation where he has to deal with his opponent's threats and his threats on him.
Oh, here's the Bitter Reunion.
Discard.
So we can give these Archons haste.
Yeah.
You know, I joked about these 10 treasures, but we spent most of them this turn.
You
GG's,
drew like
look
crazy.
at
You
that.
just could not find the Supreme in time, yeah. It was in 2.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing the table
think I
talk,
had
Chaz talking
two
about like
options there at the end, too.
how well they both drew in this game. Like this is a pretty crazy game. I really thought Chaz was out of it. I didn't think that he was going to be able to find a path to victory after being down like 15 cards that game.
Well, so, you know, while Logan did draw a lot of cards, so many of them get discarded at the end of the turn that he's
Right.
really only keeping 7. He's just kind of doing card selection rather than actually card draw.
Yeah.
And Chaz is drawing cards every turn too. He's setting up, he's drawing those key interaction pieces like Veil of Summer. He's getting those treasure tokens every turn, getting that mana advantage. And that extra mana was what led to a huge turn of Hardcast Archon, Persist Archon,
Yeah.
Veil of Summer, Bitter Reunion, Activate Bitter Reunion. That's, 11 mana or something like that.
Yeah, it seemed that Logan in the end was just bottlenecked on mana, and we were talking before about how he's casting One Ring and fading all of this damage, but it doesn't stop the treasure tokens. And then after getting to 10 treasure tokens, you can just look at your hand and be like, okay, I can do whatever I want now.
Yeah.
Man, that was pretty fun. Actually, Anurag, do we want to go to break? Do we want to just bring in new casters? We can hop up off the couch. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and hot swap casters so we don't have to go to break.
I'll get out of your way, let it a professional.
I really appreciate you hanging out with us. This was like a lot of fun.
Thank you. This is fun.